All right, team. So today in this video, we're going to refactor the post component that we built last time. So I'll quickly show you what that looks like. So what we have in here, we're also gonna add functionality for bold, italic, underline, H1, H2. So you can see, boom, boom, look at that go. Italic, bolding thing here, and you can see you can paste in all your embeds. And then we're gonna refactor that all out into the post editor and split out all the elements and the tools and stuff. So let's jump in. All right, so just to refresh our memories, so we have the new post page over here, and now we've added the ability to copy and paste in a project, which is pretty cool. And that is all embedded, and we can keep typing and add another one. So what we want to do today is we want to refactor all this logic out because it's becoming a bit of a massive file. So if we paste in another one here, we can do that. So that's very cool. So I want to pull these things all out into components, and then I want to fix up this logic for the pasting so if we look in here, we got the custom enter handle embed. I want to pull this function out and then make each one of these things their own little function, just so that we can maintain them easily. Currently, we have the new post page here, and then we have all our logic sitting inside here. So what I want to do to start is, like, we've got all our editor logic just sitting here, and these are our components, like our code element, a custom image, default element. All of these things should really be pulled out into posts, which we have inside. So in here, we've got the post editor, and then we've got the different components. So to start, let's pull out these ones. So these ones are the basic, the default elements and the leaf and all that kind of thing. So let's start with doing that. I'll close off all of this stuff. Just to make sure, do we need this? This is old. And that's an empty one. All right, clean up the brain. So, well, let's do the code. Do we need code? We probably don't need code in here at all. So we'll probably just get rid of that because we don't need the code element. I don't think we're gonna be writing code in a 4x4 app. Let's just see if there's code anywhere else. So toggle code block. So we're going to get rid of this toggle code block because that won't be a thing anymore. So this will just be prevent detail. Let's remove it. So we've just get rid of all these. Don't need them. All right, cool. So let's see, what else do we have in here? We've got this async sum, that function that we added, that needs to be pulled out as well into the util. So we've got the default. Let's add the default element. So very simple. We're just going to go into post editor, and then here we're going to have default element. All right, paste that in. And that's literally this. All right, and then what are the props are, we need to actually define the types somewhere, but we'll get to that later. So this is all we're returning here for this guy. So let's now import default element. So we'll element, and then we'll chuck, instead of the duplicate, where are you? Here, we can now get rid of this one, okay? So we should still be functioning. All good. So we need a leaf. So we're gonna add the leaf component. Let's go here, leaf. Okay, and then grab it from here. because as these things are growing, so at the moment our leaf only supports bold, but we're going to have italic, we're going to have all those underline, all those other things. So we do need these to be maintainable in the long run. So we'll import leaf. Okay, what else do we have that we can pull out here easily? Custom image. So I wonder if we'll rename this to image embed, right? Because that's what we'll eventually do there. So let's go here and we're going to add a new, so it'll be image embed. Okay, and then we're going to grab it. All right, and then we will import that. Sweet. So everything's still functioning, so we're still running, so that's good. I'm just going to clean that up because we don't need it. All right, so let's see what else now. So this custom editor, this whole bunch of that's a whole bunch of logic that we can move out. And this is not a component, it's like an object. So we'll define that in a TS file. Now this can live render element, where do we call that? That called on the editor component. So what I can see here is, this is our nav bar. So that's going to end up being a component. So it's like our tools menu. That'll be living by itself. It is a component. And then we've got our editable, which is the actual, this box here. And then our tools here. So let's create two components inside here. We're going to create, inside the editor, we're going to have tools. So let's call it the tools bar. And then we're going to go index.tsx. And then we are going to grab it from here. So this is basically this piece. Let's set up a new component here. And this will be tools bar. And then that is this. Okay, so what do we need? We need a button component. We need this custom editor, and we need the editor. What else do we need? Okay, so we can pass in the editor. And what is the editor? Have we defined that somewhere? So editor is equal to base editor and editor. Where is the type? So it's always just thinking it's an any. But what is it coming out as? If we look here, what is this object? It's an any. That's annoying. Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we'll pass editor in for now. So we won't have that. Let's just go any, which is not ideal. And then this custom editor. So let's pull that piece out as well, which is this. So inside of post editor, so this is the components. So what we need to do is, this is a function. I'm just wondering whether we leave this, put this in a util, which just means it's going to be away from the code, or if we keep it close by in here. So that the code lives next door and it's simpler to work. Let's see, do we have any thing like this? Because these are all components. Okay, so for now, let's create a util, and it's going to be called new file, custom editor. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this, and we are going to export this. Okay, so it needs itself. Now we can see we've got a few little things in here that we need. So that's fine. So this here, editor.marks. So we need to find that. Where are we calling that? Where are you? Editor. Yeah, so where does editor come from? I believe it comes up here. So it comes out of Slate editor. So we need up here, we need this. So we need transforms and we need editor from Slate for this to work. The embed regexes we need. So where are we getting that from? Embed regexes. Looks like we're hard coded that here. So we can grab that. Right, we need async sum, but we're going to pull that out into its own util. So we'll create that, async sum. Very cool little util. All right, so now we can pull in async sum in here. Let's just hard code this so that we can use that, and if we move this file, it doesn't matter, it'll always know where to find it. What else do we have that's going to break in here? That looks all right. All right, so that looks like that guy's good. So now if we, basically we can comment this out, and we can now import custom editor. So we can say import custom editor from utils. All right, are we still good? Let's see. Yep, looks like we're all working. Okay, so we've pulled that piece out now, so we can get rid of that code. All right, so we're getting there. What else? So now we don't want all of this. All of this is part of the component. And this client gets passed into the custom editor there. So that can live. So, okay, so what we can do now is we're going to create the post editor itself. So I'm wondering if we should move these things into components inside of this guy. So editor can have an index. So post editor. So this will be called post editor editable. No, I'm not. I'm just thinking of the name for this one. So currently we have post editor and post like button. So this is the editor itself. Default image embed, leaf, tools bar. And what are these things called? So if we look here, these are called elements. So what we could do here is, I think, let's create a folder called elements. Right? And leaves. So I'm going to move this into elements. We're going to get some crashes now. So wherever it's this, we're going to go elements. There, and there. Right? So we're back on. So they all live inside of the elements. So the editor has elements, which is cool. And then let's just go to Slate and just see a leaf. So are they called leaves or leaves? Leaves, yeah, okay. So I'm going to add one in here, and this will be leaves. We'll move leaf into there. That's obviously not nicely named. So eventually what you'll have is probably leaves and then bold and then italic and have them slightly different or something like that. I'm just going to do that. And then here we got editor, elements, leaves, tools bar. Okay, cool. So we're looking much better. Now we need to have post editor. We need to come up with a name. So we've got one for the tools bar. Have we moved the tools? Tools bar. Okay, let's finish off the tools bar so we can import it. So we need to import custom editor. Okay, so that's custom editor. So this has got no more errors. Great. So now we can pull tools bar into here. Yep. So now what we can do here is, instead of rendering this guy, we can do that, and we can get rid of, we'll leave both there so you can see a double up. Perfect. Now if we do this, great. So we can get rid of the old one. Now we have one. Nice. Sweet, so we've got the tools bar running. Now we need to think of this editable. This is a real strange name. Because I would technically call that the editor. I guess we could call it the text area. It's the editor text area, or editor input. Editor input. Let's call it the editor input for now. It's not the best name, but it'll do. Right, because you can only have one input for an editor anyway. So what we're going to do here, let's create a new component. And this is going to be called, I might even call it editor input. And then just rename this guy. Just the only reason I'm doing that is just so we don't have a collision with the normal input if we ever use an input element from Chakra. So what will this have? This will have this guy. Okay. Now we need all these little functions. So we need to pull in all these things. Right, so we're going to grab this and this. I'm going to chuck this here. So we need use callback from React. Okay, that's fine. And then we need these components. So we need all the elements. So let's just grab them. Okay, so it's looking for this. Okay, so this is just when it's rendering, it's just letting us know what to do. All right, and then we need a leaf. We need the leaf as well. So we're going to import leaf from there. And that's to satisfy this one. Now we need our custom editor. Great. That's all good. The client. So this is the TRP. This should definitely be named something better because that's not ideal. But let's grab that. So we're going to import TRPC here. And then we're going to set up a client. So it'll be this. So we're gonna cast that because it's a little bit confusing. So we're going to say client, and then we're going to cast this to TRPC client. And that's going to be passed into there because we need that when we're doing our pasting, so we can look up our different projects. So now we also need this editable component, which comes from Slate React, I should say. Sweet. So we pull that up. We're going to grab that. We don't need this flex box. All right, so all good. And now we need the editor. So the editor is going to be fed in through as a prop here. And this is going to be an any. But we did define editor here, custom types editor. So I'm not sure why that type doesn't work, but anyway, we can figure that out. All right, so we now don't have this, this, and this. And then we also can now take editable and get rid of that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say from the editor, so we're going to import editor input. And now that comes in here. So you can see it's way more compartmentalized now, and it actually makes it much easier to see what's going on. Sweet, so we've got editor input. Now let's just see, that's all working still. So we've refactored that so we can pull this away. So we're just trying to get this page back to looking like a page and not full of nonsense. So we get rid of all of these things, TRPC, custom editor, editable, all of this. We don't need a button anymore, don't need callback. Now we really have like a much better looking page. And it also just creates reusability, so we can pull these components in anywhere we go. So let's see here, perfect. So what we need now is we need some sort of Slate wrapper that we can control with the initial value and stuff. So this will be like the post holder, editor context, maybe. So let's just do, I wonder if we can even import the editor as a root element and then have the index file in the editor, and that comes with this. Or if we want to have the ability to pass custom things in. So I think, okay, so thinking out loud, I'm just deciding whether we have an editor component. So let's do this. Let's go like something like this. So we're going to go index in here, and then we're going to have a component, and this is going to be called the editor. Right, and then from here we're going to have, the editor is going to contain the logic for this. It's going to have Slate like that, and then it's going to pass in children. Then, so what do we need to do this? We need this guy. Right, so we need that. So let's get all that stuff set up. I'm just going to grab all this and see how much of it is needed. Okay. So we got this, and then those types, we need this. All right. We don't need heading. Okay, and then the initial value. So what we're going to do is we'll pass in the initial value if you have one saved. And this will be an object, I believe. That's an array. It's an array of objects. I guess we can just call it an object array. What is it expecting? Descend in an array. Need to descend in an array. Okay. Where does descendant live? Descendant. Yep. So it's in the descendant array. There we go. So we fix up that. All right. So now we've got the Slate editor. So this is our editor. Now what we're going to do is we are going to import these two things. So we're going to import the input and the tools bar. So the way I'm going to do this now is, if you've seen this happen before, we're going to say editor.input and then editor.toolsbar. Right, so now those components are exposed through this editor. So what we can do here is now we're going to just pull in editor from here, which is the root. And then we're going to use this down here. And so instead now we're going to have editor, right, like this. And then we're going to pass through editor.input and editor.toolsbar. And inside of here, it's asking for an initial value. Right, so we're passing through the initial value. And that is all we need. So let's see. I'll get rid of this now. I can get rid of this. Okay, so this is an interesting one. We need to actually pass through the editor into here. So what we'll do is we'll do a clone element. I think that will work. So we can spread this prop in when we render it. We don't need these anymore. So we don't need that. Don't actually need this anymore. All right, so this is the problem that we need to solve. So we're going to come in here. So we're going to use React. I think we've done it in here actually. React.clone element. Okay. So what we're going to do is when we pass in children, all right, and then we also just need to double check. Children.props. Okay. So let's import React. So what we're doing here is we're cloning every child that we pass in, and then we're giving it the editor prop, passing it in automatically, so that we don't need to do this. Okay. So now what that also means is that in these ones, so that's coming through automatically, and these are going to complain because they're saying they don't have editor. So we will go into that here, and we'll just make this optional. So you can explicitly provide it, or we're going to provide it in ourselves. Now let's see. Okay, maybe this is the mistake. So I think that the children is an array. So we probably need to do this. So we need to say loop through this. And then we're going to clone element. I wonder why it wants to ignore TS. Okay. So let's go children. Okay, so that's the problem. So children is an array. So now what we're doing is we're looping through each child and then applying or adding the editor prop in. Cool. All right, that was a little rabbit hole. So there we go. So we still got this, and then if we jump into paste the build, let's check that that functionality still works. Our favorite little chimney. Just chuck it in here. Boom. Okay, cool. So the pasting functionality still works. All right. Okay, so we just also want to just get rid of this prop actually, because we now added that in. Just make sure it still functions without it. And it does. Cool, so we can get rid of this. I'm just going to add a console.log just to make sure that this doesn't get prettied in a way. So we don't need this, we don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. And now what we have is a good normal looking page again. So now we can drop this editor in anywhere, which is great. So if we want to add this little editor on a different page, if you're doing a post, or if we wanted to use this editor to do anything else, we can, which is awesome. And then you can see here we can provide an initial value. So that will come from, what would happen is on this post page, what we'll do is we'll load the post and we'll grab the data, which will be the JSON string, and we'll pull that in and then pass that through as an initial value. And then that will hydrate our editor. So that's really cool. So that's all refactored now. So let us see what we can do next. Okay, so the next thing we're going to try to do here is we're going to add the italic command. So let's do that. So what we need to do here is we're rendering our leaf. And then what we're going to do in here is we're going to say, so font style, all right, Copilot, you just want to take over. So is this. So if we're going to pass a leaf that's italic, it's like it's listening to me. It's kind of scary. We're going to put the font style italic, otherwise normal. All right, so let's just test that. So if we open up inspect here, and then if we just said element style, font style, italic, and we're going to get that. That's not on the whole thing, but you get the point. So let's go in here. Now what do we need to do? So we're going to go into our custom editor. And then we're going to say, so the custom editor, so we can see we've got a few things going on in here. So we don't need this code block active. So let's get rid of that. We can actually repurpose that. So we'll repurpose that. So we're going to say, is code block active? So is italic mark active? And realistically, it's actually just this. So let's just copy this, copy paste. Is italic mark active? And this is going to be italic. Right? And then what we're going to do here is the same thing. We're going to say, I wonder if we should just for simplicity keep these two things together. Right? So we're going to say, is italic mark? And I'm going to say toggle italic mark. And then let me just go here. So we're going to take these two. So we're going to say, when we toggle italic mark, we're going to check if it's active. If it is active, we're going to remove the mark, italic. Otherwise, we're going to add the mark, italic. Okay? Now we should have access to that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say here, this is for our quick keys, and we're going to use the key I for italic. And then we're going to toggle italic mark. Right, so that just allows us to hit like Control I or Control B to quickly do that. The other piece that we need to do is add it to our toolbar. So if we go into our post editor toolbar, so this actually should be toolbar. It's not toolbar. Toolbar. And rename that to toolbar. And this is going to throw for us somewhere. Toolbar. And then we need to fix this guy, toolbar. Okay. So now if we do that, okay, so we need to add it to the toolbar. So let's just go in here. And then so now we're going to prevent default, and we are going to toggle italic mark. There we go. Now we got italics. And that's how we do it. Awesome. So let's see if we can add the H1 and the H2, because that'll be useful. These ones are going to be much more interesting. So let's move these ones forward in the toolbar. So we're going to grab H1 and H2 and chuck them there. Bold, italic, H1, H2, blah, blah, blah. Awesome. All right, let's see how we can do that. So they've got it all here for us. So let's see how we go and toggle. So we got block button. So these are marks and these are blocks. So just by looking at their source code, you can already see how they do it, which is quite handy. So a block button, where are you defined? So it'll be defined down here. Block button, where are you, brother? So it checks if the block's active and then it toggles a block. So let's see. I mean, this is even, we should really copy that style. So is block active? So this is interesting. So we can start seeing in here in our custom editor, these are going to be very similar. Right, so what we could do here is we could say is mark active, and then it's going to be editor, and this will be type, I guess. And then we're going to go in here, and then same thing. So we're going to say we're going to get the what is old mate trying to tell us, right? And this will be so that's a string. Now what we can do is just do this. And now we don't actually need these guys anymore. So before I delete them, I'm just going to comment them out. That's why it pays to read other people's code, because you can see they can do a better job. So toggle. Great, so that works. So we can get rid of this now. Boom, boom. Now, the same thing here, right? We can do the same with toggle mark. Editor type. And in here, we're going to say const is active. So that's that easy, hopefully. So we get rid of that. And now what we're going to have is this toggle mark. So we just got to go back to here. And this is now toggle mark. And this is bold. And this is toggle mark italic. Right, and now also remembering in here, we also use that. So toggle mark bold and italic. Okay, let's see. Italic, bold, great. So now we've just refactored that even more, which is awesome. So we lose all that code. Boom, less code is the best code. All right, so that's the is mark active and toggle mark. Now let's have a look at this. So the next thing is block active. So this is a different one. So we can see that in the button is active or not. So that's telling us, I guess, so when you do that in Slate, so if we go, if we open this up, so when you click on it, you can see that it's actually showing you this is a bold, this is italic, that's really cool. So let's implement, let's just copy and paste that method because it's awesome. So we're going to say, grab that. And we're going to say this new method will be is block active. So I'm just copying this code. So we're looking through the thing and then match Slate element. So where does that come from? Slate element comes from element. Do we have that? It's from Slate. So we'll grab that. Okay, and then block type. Okay, so that's the is block active. Now what we need to do as well is once we have that toggle block, geez, that's a decent bit of code here. So we'll have that. Is block active, is mark active, and then we're gonna have toggle block. Right, and then the same thing, we're gonna do custom editor.is block active. This one I don't understand here, so format. So I'm gonna leave that off for now. Oh wait, that actually allows it to happen now. Text align types. So where is that coming from? So we need to just grab that. We can copy most of this stuff because we're going to use it pretty much all these numberless, borderless, left, right, center, justify. So we can use those. And then it's doing all its work. A lot of work here. And way past my understanding in Slate. So I'm going to just trust that that works. We'll find out very soon. Okay, so that's all good. Toggle block. We've got toggle mark. Is block active? Is mark active? Element. Block button. Okay. So the format and then the icon. And what is the format? So the block button. Let's have a look. Where are you? Format is that heading 1. Okay, so let's try that on one of that. So they're calling the format. So what we'll do here is in our toolbar, we're going to say here, and we're going to say toggle block, and this will be heading 1. All right, let's see if this works. We haven't implemented the thing for it though, so let's just see what we get out. Okay, so it's made that whole line type heading 1. That's really cool. So now what we need to do is we need to implement that component. So what do they have heading 1 looking like? Very, very cool. It's a very cool tool, this one. Where are you? Here we go, heading 1. So heading 1 returns an H1. Okay, so let's find our elements. And we're going to say, I believe, so let's just see, where do we define those? That happens in here. Cool. So we're going to have heading 1 now. So that will be an element. So we'll call this heading. Let's just call it heading. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pass a comp type to it. So or size to it. So we're going to say index.tsx. Because what they're doing is they're just hard coding H1, H2. So what we can do is go component heading. And then here what we can do is we're gonna import heading as base heading. Right, and then we're gonna pass the size. So we're gonna have, so it passes in all its props, and then what props are we gonna get? So let's just see. We're gonna get this back. Where does style come from? Style comes from text align element.align. So we're going to get these props here. And then we're also going to pass in a size. And what we'll do is we'll map the size, like heading 1 or heading 2, to a specific size in Chakra. So this would, for now, I'm just going to do large. And we're going to pass in the style here. I wonder, actually, can we just do that in here? Text align, yeah. Will be element.align. We don't care about the style. Great. Children attributes, where attributes spread in after here. So we'll spread that in. And then we've got children and we've got style. All right. So let's chuck that in here. So we're going to now have case heading 1. Then we're going to return heading. So that'll just be from here. And then what we're going to do is, because it's heading 1, we know, so we're going to say size equals large, for instance. So we're going to take that and we're going to pass in size, and that will just come straight through to here. Now let's see if this is doing it. There we go. So we're doing stuff. Let's just see if we go XL. So this is where we just have to decide what's the biggest size we want to support. So let's just see, what is a Chakra UI heading? And what is the props of that? So the H2, which is not what we want. So use the size, that's the 4XL. So it looks like, yeah, that's probably too big for us. But also what we want to do here is heading 1, and then this will be as H1, because we want H1s to be rendered as H1s. So we're going to do as. All right, so as is going to either be H1 or H2 for now, because that's all we support. And all of these things are hurting me because they're objects, but I don't know exactly what they are. An element is also an object. And size is either XL or large, I think, for now. Okay. Let's see. XL. So now with H2, very similar thing. We're going to just do that, and we're going to go heading 2. This will be as an H2, and this will be large. Right? So let's see what we have here. So if we make that H1, and then we change that to H2, we need to implement that logic. So we are going to do this, and this will be heading 2. And then what we need to do here, that should actually not need any work. There we go. We got a H1 and a H2. Now if we look at this, you can see H2, H1. All right, so now we have H2 and a H1. Now what I want to see is if we can do that similar concept to what they've done, which is really cool. Toolbar. And what we want to have in here is a mark button. And we also want to add in exactly, I'm just literally copy pasting here, a block button and a mark button. Okay, so we are going to copy, so a mark button is basically anything that's going to toggle a mark, right? So it's going to look like this. So chuck that in there. It's going to be a button. Now we're going to import custom editor. Sweet. We need to pass in the editor. Where does it get editor? Use Slate. Huh, okay, so there's a hook there that we can do. That's handy. So now it's a prop drill this all the way through. Awesome. That's really handy. So now we need to have, how are they doing it? Let's just look at how they're doing it. Format and icon. So they're just doing icon buttons, which is probably what we'll end up doing as well. So let's copy that. Format and icon. So we won't have the word anymore. And at the moment, this can be B or I. And then an icon will be a React node. So what we're going to do here is, can we do icon? Left icon. Icon. And we're not going to have anything anymore there. React element. And the format is, okay, so the format needs to be bold or italic. Bold. Okay, so let's try this out now. Let's go in here and let's use our import mark button. And I'll just chuck that here. So the mark button will now be format bold. Not quite right, but let's go here. So we're going to import FA bold. And we're going to just pass that in. Let's see what we have. There we go. Not the best. I wonder if we can pass that actually through as a child. So instead of this, let's see if we can do and then there we're going to use children. And then we're going to pass that inside here. Get rid of that. That doesn't work. All right, let's just see how we can give a button icon, button with icon, but without anything. Because we don't want that. Doesn't look like Chakra has an icon only button. Icon button. Yeah, useful when you know what you're doing. ARIA label. So we need an ARIA label. So that's just going to be the format, because it'll have the word bold or italic, and then the icon. Yeah, we can just use the children there. So we can close that off. All right. Just going to fix this up for my own sanity. Okay. All right, let's see if that works. There we go. Got an icon button, and I hate that B, but anyway. Let's add italic. And then we're going to say FA italic. Nice. How good's that? All right, so now we just clean up all this mess. Boom. All right. That's so cool. Look at us go. Also, we want to always have a margin right. And that's going to be 1, I believe. What are we doing here? Yep, 1. So that'll just push that away. Now we are off to the races. Awesome. Okay. Sweet. So we've done the mark button. You can also do, let's do underline just because we've been having fun. Let's see if we have FA underline. Okay. We need to add it. No, we don't have to add it to our custom editor, but we do have to do it to our renderer. No, we don't have to do anything because it's just a mark. So no, we do have to do something. Toggle mark, custom editor, toggle mark, where are you? Toggle mark, is mark active? Yep, so we do have to do that. So I've just remembered, we have to do it in the leaf. Yeah. So, text decoration, thank you. It's like it knows what's going on. There we are. How good. Bold, italic, underline. Sick. Excellent. All right, let's do the next one. Let's do the block button. So I'm just copying my mates at Slate. All right, so we're going to also do the same thing. It's going to just be an icon button. It's also just going to use Slate. Love that. Very similar concept going on here. All right, so this is what it looks like now. So let's see, let's go block button, icon button, paste you in there, custom editor. We need this. So the format's going to be slightly different. We have heading 1, heading 2. And this is toggle block. Now let's just see what we have. So we need to add one of those in. And this will be heading 1. Now let's see if it has this. FA, heading, oh. This will be interesting. Has heading. Could even use H1, H2 like that as just text. I wonder if we can just write it. Could just pass that as text. Yep, that'll do. We'll make our own. Boom. Okay, wonderful. Now let's see. Perfect. Oh, it's so good. Love that. Okay, excellent. So we can get rid of chuck these in the bin. Done. Okay, it's coming along. Underline. Hey. Why is that not working now? Interesting. Anyway. Okay, cool. Maybe just a little freak out there. This is... what? That's interesting. Something's not working now. Yep, okay, wow. All right. So I added this prop, disable default styles, and that's for some reason must be styling the white space. And I bet you if I read the docs, it's going to tell me that. Disable default styles. Okay, anyway. And must have styling for that because that is now working. So that's super weird, but anyway. Great. So I was trying to do a demo, and that now it's stuffed my whole demo. So I'm say best 4x4s for beginners. This is my cool article about 4x4s for beginners. Then we can go bang H1, and then choosing your base vehicle. H2. So there we go. So that's pretty cool. All right, so we got bold, italic, underline, H1, H2. Excellent. So that's a pretty good refactor on that guy. So we split all the components apart, and then we moved them into their own folders, just so it makes this thing much more maintainable, the code smaller, so we can work on one piece at a time. And then we've added in a couple more things like the H1, H2, and yeah, that's looking really, really cool. All right. Well, we'll stop it that way. Stop it there, and we'll continue on the next one.